Okay, so in this video I'm going to be walking you through how to manipulate workbooks and worksheets. And once again, the workbook just refers to an individual file within Excel. So what you're looking at right now with the sheets 1, 2, and 3 at the bottom over here would be an example of a workbook, and then the sheets 1, 2, and 3 are all individual worksheets within this. And most of the time in Excel, it's more important to know how to manipulate the worksheets because most of the time you'll be getting workbooks from clients or from other people within your bank or from elsewhere. And so you won't have to worry too much about manipulating them and creating them from scratch. So I'll focus on how to manipulate worksheets, but first we'll start off by just covering the basics for workbooks. So at the most basic level, you press Control N to create a new workbook, which we'll do right here. And now we have this new workbook right here. It's called Book 3 because I had created another new workbook before this. And to cycle back and forth between this one and the old one, we press Control Tab. You see I also have the valuation workbook from before up. So Control Tab will cycle between these different Excel files. Now one useful feature when you have a workbook like this open is to save it as something. So if you just press Control S, the save key, in a freshly opened workbook and you haven't saved it before, you'll get a dialog that prompts you for the file name. Otherwise, it'll just give you a shortcut and you'll just save it as whatever name you've saved it as previously. But if you press Control S in a new one, you'll get this prompt. If you press Alt FA, you get the Save As dialog. And again, in a new workbook, it does the same exact thing. You'll just be prompted for a name and you'll choose where you want to save it. So it's not too useful here, and we're just going to close this new workbook for now with Control F4. But if you're in a workbook where you've already saved it as something and you press Alt FA, then you can choose to save it as something else. So here I have this one saved as Excel Manipulating Workbooks Worksheets 08. And if I wanted to save this as, say, a test file, I could just enter test right here and save it as that. This comes in handy when you're manipulating big models in Excel and you're about to make a major change that could really impact things, and you want to make sure that you're always able to undo it and go back to its original state. And it's sort of like a backup feature within Excel. So I recommend that you use it whenever you're about to make a major sweeping change in your model, just to make sure that you can always go back to the original version. We'll just press escape to get out of this. Okay, and so now we're going to get into some of the manipulation of individual worksheets. So we see the sheet 1 and then the 2 and 3 here at the bottom. So what I'm going to do here first is to insert a new worksheet. The shortcut key for that is Shift F11. That gives us sheet 9 here. Normally this would start with sheet 4, but I've already been playing around with this and I've entered and deleted a bunch of new worksheets here already, so we're starting from sheet 9. But Shift F11 will let us enter new worksheets right here. So Shift F11 again, hold down Shift and press F11 again, and that gets us these new worksheets. Now that we have all these worksheets, you might be wondering, well, how do we delete them? How do we rearrange them? Because clearly we don't need 5 or 6 blank Excel worksheets within our file, at least not right now. So to delete an individual worksheet when you have it highlighted like this, you press Alt-EL, 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 Alt-EL. So you press Shift F11 to insert a new worksheet, Shift F11 again to keep inserting them. And then to delete them, you can press Alt-EL. And to make it faster, you can just press F4 to do that. So you can just press F4 to repeat your previous action, and that's the fast way to do it once you've done that. Another important function to keep in mind with worksheets is how to cycle between them. So what we do here is Control Page Down to move to the right, to move to the next tab on the right, Control Page Down to move to the next tab on the right, and then Control Page Up to move to the previous one. So Control Page Down and Control Page Up will move you around these different tabs within Excel. This is really, really important, especially for longer, more complex models that have 20, 30, more than that in terms of tabs. A real-world example of when we actually use this is in our evaluation section of the course. We see that we have all these tabs on the bottom, and we can use Control Page Down to move to the right, and then Control Page Up to move to the left, and you can press combinations of those to move to the left and right as you see fit. So this is used all the time. You'll find yourself using this shortcut very, very frequently within Excel. So I strongly recommend getting to know this one because it's one of the most commonly used ones when you're actually working with models in Excel. Now, another thing you might have to do quite frequently is to actually copy and move worksheets. And the shortcut for that, when we have sheet 1 highlighted as we do here, is to press Alt EM. And now we see this dialog that comes up, move or copy. So we can move selected sheets or we can create a copy. So there are a couple different ways you can use this. I would say it's probably more common to create copies of worksheets that you already have within your current workbook rather than to move the actual sheets. The reason is that when you start moving around sheets too much, especially when you see up here, we can move this to an actual different workbook. We can move it to our valuation template. So we could do that, and if we wanted to, we could then move this sheet to right after one of the worksheets within our valuation workbook here. But the problem is that when you start doing this, especially with more complex models, a lot of your formulas will start to break or you'll have links between different workbooks. And generally, you want to avoid doing that. You want to avoid linking together different Excel files. Typically, you want all your data to be within one file because they could just very easily get broken if you start moving around files within your folders and your file system on your computer. So in general, you should not be moving around worksheets within different workbooks. It's usually a poor idea because a lot of things could have the potential to break. That said, you do use it sometimes, and the way to get to this is Alt EM. But I would say the most common thing that you can do here is to actually create a copy of your current worksheet. And I'll show you how to do that right now. First, we'll just press Escape to get out in that. To get back into it, we'll press Alt EM, and then we'll press Alt C to create a copy. And we see here that in this box before sheet right here, we have a couple different options. We'll press Alt B to get there, and we can position this wherever we want. The most common option here is probably to move it to the end. And what that'll do, we do that and we press enter to hit the OK right here, is we'll have this sheet 1 with 2 in parentheses. And this is an exact copy of our original worksheet right here. So we'll press Control Page Down to get to this. We see that this is an exact copy of what we had created before. So we have this at the end now, but one thing we might want to do is actually rearrange this and put it somewhere different. So one way we could do that is we could go to Alt EM once again, and this time we could just say that we want to move this to before sheet 2, let's say, and then that moves it over there. When you're cycling through them with the Control Page Up and Control Page Down keys, you can just hold down Shift, and that'll select the multiple sheets as well. So here we've actually selected everything now. And then if you want to unhighlight them, you would just hold down Shift again, and again, just cycle through them with Control Page Up and Control Page Down. Okay, so to rearrange them, we again hold down the Shift key and then Control Page Down, and this will let us select Sheet 1, parentheses 2, and then Sheet 2 as well. And we could press Alt EM, and again, that would just give us the option to actually move around these selected sheets. So we could go all the way to the end here. And so that's an example of how you would actually move around these different sheets within Excel. Okay, so now that we've been through those basic shortcuts, we're going to go back to our original state here. We'll press Alt EL to delete this new worksheet that we've made. And then we will move this sheet 2 to before sheet 3, so everything's back to how it started out. Press Control Page Up to get back to sheet 1. Okay, and here's what I want you to do for the exercise for this one to practice some of the keys that we just learned. Get your sheet 1 highlighted. So if you're just starting out and you haven't done anything to your file yet, it should already be highlighted with the tab at the bottom here. But make sure your sheet 1 is highlighted. And then I want you to create a copy of this and put it at the end of the worksheets in the file. So we have the copy there. Then I want you to go back to the original worksheet, sheet 1 here, and then create another copy of it. Put it at the end once again. And then I want you to delete everything here except for the original sheet that we created. So you should just be left with sheet 1 at the very end of this. So pause the video right now and try to do that by yourself. It may be a little bit complex because it's more complicated than some of the previous exercises we've been through, but if you get stuck at any point, just pause the video, and then once you unpause it, I'll walk you through exactly how to do it with the shortcuts. But I would try to do this by yourself first to test your knowledge and to make sure that you picked up all the shortcuts that we just went through. So try to do that exactly. Just create those two new copies at the end of the original sheet, sheet 1 here, and then go through and delete those 4 sheets at the end so that you're just left with the sheet 1 right here. Once you do that, pause the video, and then I'll walk you through how to do it going more slowly and giving you the shortcuts along the way. Okay, good. So if you're just starting out, this is what your workbook should look like with sheet 1, sheet 2, and sheet 3 at the bottom here. And now I'm going to walk you through exactly how to do what I just asked you to do, but I'm going to give you the shortcuts and go through it more slowly this time. So to copy the sheet 1 here, we press Alt E M to bring up this move or copy dialog box. We press Alt C to create a copy, Alt B to move it to the end, and now we press Control Page Up once, twice, and 3 times to move back to the original sheet. And we press Alt EM to create another copy of this sheet. We press Alt C to create copy, get that checked. Alt B to move to the before sheet box right here. Down arrow key to move to the end. And now we have that at the end right here. And now we have these 4 extra sheets. 2 of them are copies and 2 of them are blank sheets. To delete them completely, we press Alt EL. Now, we could press Alt EL again to delete this one, or we could just press F4 to make it really easy. So F4 to repeat our previous action, F4 again, and F4 again. And now we're left with the original sheet. So that's how you go through it with the full shortcuts. So hopefully you have a better understanding of how to manipulate some of these worksheets and workbooks using the shortcut keys now within Excel. In the next video, we're going to go into this in a bit more detail, and we're going to get into how to actually edit individual worksheets. So changing the name, changing the color, and changing other attributes like that, which also come in handy when you're manipulating these large data sets.